Hello students, welcome to our class, and today we're going to discuss war. And war is an important aspect of international affairs. So let's look at war from different scholars' perspective. My first scholar I'm going to bring today, I'm going to bring three different scholars, okay? And the first scholar I'm going to bring is Clausewitz. How do you spell? Clausewitz. Clausewitz is a Prussian from Germany, military theorist. And you're like, why do we need to study him from another period, 19th century? He is still read and has been read for a long time in military schools in Sandhurst in England, West Point in America. He's so relevant. His ideas are so brilliant that people write doctoral dissertation, an entire book on just his one sentence analyzing it. It's amazing how. So how did he wrote such a brilliant book? Well, he wrote this in 19th century, and why is it still relevant? He was a practitioner and a scholar, so he observed war from the battlefields and put them all. He wanted to achieve immortality, and he did achieve it through his work. So, what are these famous ones? We can't discuss the whole book because you could spend your whole semester on studying Clausewitz on war. The book is called, and we're going to discuss some important dictums which is relevant, very relevant for international affairs. The first one, okay, dictum means like a statement he is making. Write it down. War, word by word, write it down. War is a continuation of politics by other means. War is a continuation of politics by other means. What does that mean? He's trying to explain what war is. War is saying, say this one, okay? And so this is another milestone. Okay. Here, another milestone. And then there is a second milestone, third milestone here. Okay, I don't have another hand to hold this here. So if a state A starts a conversation with state B and tells state B, hey, state B, do what I want you to do. And the state B says, no, I'm not going to do what you want me to do. Then war begins. Okay? War begins because you try through economically coercing state B, you diplomatically tell state B to do something you want them to do, they're not willing to do it, and then war begins. War has a goal. Listen to this. War has a goal, and the main goal is to defeat the enemy, right? I will explain more about that later, but let's finish this first one. And say state A defeats militarily state B completely. You are in checkpost 2. Once that is done, then here starts politics. Military guys goes away. Politics begins here. And then you ask him to do the third position. Ask him to do what you want him to do. Because he's militarily defeated, state B complies. And then you achieve your political objective, which is the third post. So the first post to second post is war. War achieves its objective. And so the third post is achieved. So war is a means to an end. And that end is political end. The third post is political end. You asked state B to do something politically which the state B didn't want to do. So state A wages a war and achieves a military victory over state B, and through that coerces the state B to do the political move which you want them to do. Are you following? So war is a continuation of politics by other means. That means war is used as a means to achieve a political goal. Of course, the military goal has to succeed. If the military goal fails, then the political goal cannot be achieved. And also, even America, when it has achieved military victories, many times from the second post to third post, it has failed to achieve the political objective, despite achieving military objective. So Clausewitz is Brilliant. Now, the next thing he says, write it down, second dictum: war is a duel. D-U-E-L. Duel, like two people fight with pistols at the time, right? War is a duel in large scale. He's saying people fight in large scale to kill each other. And war, the third point, write it down, important. Quote, introduction of moderation into theory of warfare results in absurdity, unquote. What is he trying to say? If you introduce moderation in warfare, it's going to result in absurdity. You have to use war as a brutal business. You got to kill the enemy. It's a duel. Duel is about killing the opponent. It's to destroy, annihilate. He uses words like annihilate, completely destroy the enemy of the opponent. Why do you need to do that? Because remember, to achieve the political goal, war is used as a means. In order, if you don't destroy the military of state B, he's not going to listen to you. You cannot make him do what you want him to do. So until you destroy the military, you cannot bring the political thing inside. Are you following? So it is to achieve politics in international affairs. War is used as an instrument, as a means, and you have to annihilate the enemy's military apparatus. So, for example, Bush, I'm talking about Senior Bush in the 1990s, asked Saddam Hussein to get out of Kuwait. Kuwait was occupied by Saddam Hussein. He didn't want to get out. He said no. And we gave time, United States. Then Bush created a coalition with many countries, went in and kicked him out with fighting. His forces was kicked out of Kuwait. We gave him time. He didn't do it. Diplomatically, we told him get out of Kuwait. He said no. Then when you use war, he is kicked out. Are you following? The political objective. And some people said you should go all the way chasing the soldiers and topple Saddam Hussein. And Senior Bush said, then what? Guess what? Almost 7-8 years later, his son went and toppled Saddam Hussein and created a mess. George W. Bush. Okay? Now, let's come back to Clausewitz. I hope that example helped you to understand. Clausewitz's idea is so relevant for, like, he's dead by 19th century. You're talking about 20th and 21st century warfare, even 22nd century, future, all the warfare, he's relevant. That's why we are learning him. Okay? And Clausewitz's dictum, another dictum, listen to this one. Resistance is equal to strength of will times means. I'll come to this dictum, okay? Resistance is equal to strength of will times means, M-E-A-N-S. You know how to spell resistance. I'll come to this dictum. Before that, I want to teach you another dictum that will help you understand this. That dictum is, the goal of war is, what is the goal of the war? Yes, you're right, to annihilate the military of the opponent, but also defeat the will of the enemy to resist, quote unquote, to defeat the will of the enemy to resist. What does that mean? So, say you and I are fighting. I have soldiers in my army, you have soldiers, we are fighting. You pummel me to the point that I cannot resist. Resistance is like, I fight against you. I should give up. I should give up. The sooner I give up, your job is done. If I keep fighting, freaking, even if you kill 50% of my soldiers, I keep fighting, the war is not over. If you kill 90% of my soldiers, with 10% I'm fighting, you're like, how could you? Well, they will fight as guerrilla warriors. They will go and hide in the mountains and come and hit you. War goes on like that. But if I give up my will is from the heart, right? I give up, oh man, so you killed almost 90% of my soldiers. It doesn't happen, 90% doesn't happen in warfare, okay? It destroyed most of my soldiers. So I'm going to give up fighting. And that is good. The earlier I give up, the better you win, faster. So the goal of the war is to defeat the will of the enemy to resist. Are you following? Now, resist. I shouldn't resist. Resistance is equal to strength of will times means, he says. What does that mean? That dictum means. So if country, say there are two countries, let's make it like that. It'll be easy. Resistance 1, strength of will 1, means 1. Resistance 2, R2 is equal to, don't worry, I'm not doing mathematics, making you understand, means 2. Okay, write this down. First I'll explain what resistance is like. You're coming to fight with me, I'm going to fight back rather than surrendering. That's resistance. Resistance is strength of will, which is the will of the country to fight. Okay? Strong means it'll be very high. Means what means it has to fight a war. Remember military preparedness, economic means, we talked about in realism. Yes, Clausewitz is very realist in his idea. Realism merges, you could say that merges in his ideology. Now, strength of will times means, both has to be high. If your strength of will is 0, I don't want to fight, despite your means being 100, it's going to become 0. Resistance, there's no resistance. But if you have just this one, then it's going to be what? 1 times 1 is? Resistance is going to be 1. If country 2 has, say for example, their means is 10, okay? Their strength of will is 100% they have, okay? And this country, strength of will is, say, 2, and means is, say, 20. Are you following? I'm just giving numbers so that you understand. Even though this country is a rich country which has a lot of means compared to this, 20 is greater than 10, right? A lot of means. But because their strength of will to fight a war is only 2. 2 times 20 is what? 40. 100 times 10 is 1,000. Who's going to win? This guy's resistance is going to be harder with this guys. So the point is, and you doubt, I'll give you a real world example. United States fought Vietnam War. United States is a huge country. You know how to measure a power of a country: military preparedness, population size, geography. Remember all that we have. And what did Vietnam have? Small land mass, less population. Farmers, they don't have modern military or anything. Okay, they did get supplied from Soviet Union, but they don't have bomber aircrafts or nuclear missiles or nuclear bombs, nothing like that. And we used all our means to drop more bombs, listen to this, more bombs, powerful bombs in kilotons than all the bombs dropped in World War II. Ooh, in one small country. But who won the war? The Vietnamese won the war. Why? Despite the means. Because their will, you could kill half of us, we're going to continue fighting. But the Americans are not willing to sacrifice that many people. When our dead bodies started coming back, United States government lost its will to fight. We gave up the fight. That's why Clausewitz is genius. You understand now, you could see when you're going to go to fight countries, which will succeed. You're an international relations student. Now you will be able to see things differently. Clausewitz's next dictum, listen to this. Draw a triangle, write government here at the top. In this corner, you could write people of a country, people. Here, third one is military and the commander of the military together, commander. Military and commander, people, government. Guess what? This is like a freaking huge triangle. Say it's like as big as a bed, okay? But in a triangular shape. 3 people are carrying, say this, 3 people are carrying a bed, triangle shaped bed. One of them gets arms tired and drops it. What happens to the triangle? Gets dropped, invariable of how strong these 2 guys are. So the point is, Clausewitz says, all 3 has to support in order for the war effort to go. The triangle is war effort. War effort. Basically continuing to fight. If one of them drops, the war is over. And guess who dropped it in Vietnam War? The government. Lyndon Johnson didn't want to stop the fight. Nixon said we'll achieve peace, and then he kept bombing using bombers. Okay? And the military, so many military commanders, they sacrificed, they kept fighting. People gave up the fight in the United States. People gave up because they didn't want, hey, LBJ, how many people did you kill today? Hey, LBJ, protest outside. Have you seen the movie Forrest Gump? Have you seen people protesting? Right? And that is all against Vietnam War. And that's Vietnam War, Americans lost. The LBJ gave up. So the triangle, if it is dropped, all three, this is for a democracy. Otherwise, a dictator will not listen to the people. Okay? In a democracy, people voices. We have a republic where we could put pressure by protests and movements on the elected officials. LBJ did not even want to run for second term. He gave up. Are you with me? Okay. So that is Clausewitz's idea. Let me touch on another scholar. This is not the second scholar. You could write it as second scholar. Okay. So in that way, we will actually have 4 scholars discussed today. Okay. So the next one is Sun, S-U-N, Su. S-U-N, Su is T-Z-U. This is a scholar from China. More than 2,000 years ago, he wrote this book called The Art of War. Art of War. Sun Tzu. Sun like a sun. Tzu. He said a couple of things very important for modern warfare. He's different from Clausewitz. One of the things he said is no country benefits from a protracted warfare. Protracted means P-R-O-T-R-A-C-T-E-D. Protracted means long drawn out war. Not like boom, hit and finish it in few days or months, but years and years. Vietnam War was the second longest fighting war, okay, in the United States. Afghanistan, we just started pulling troops out, Biden, after almost 20 years, with 2 decades of fighting. What did we achieve? Some people would say nothing, because the Taliban is again trying to regain power. You follow me? Protracted war, how many soldiers we lost? How many families lost loved ones? Money. You know how much it costs? Not like millions, not billions, trillions. You know what a trillion is? 1,000 billion makes a trillion. 1,000 million makes a billion, and 1,000 billion makes a trillion. Every year, the national security budget of the United States is about $1 trillion. You're no kidding. Like Jeff Bezos' money, he's the richest man in the world. Oh man, we pumped gas for helicopters, and that's it. All your wealth is gone. It's that will be spent like this. War costs enormous amount of money. So no country benefits from a protracted war. Keep that in mind. And he also said, second point, the leader of a country should not intervene in the commander's business in the military. Saying from the top, if I'm the leader, hey, do this, do that. Mind your business. Unless I am the military official, I should not, on the ground, ask them to do this or do that. Are you following? Sometimes White House, presidents intervene and tell the military officers what to do tactically. They are in charge of political goals. If I am the president, I should say, this is my political objective, achieve your military objective. Once that means it's done, I will come there to achieve my political objective. Sure, I'm the authority on political objective in the country, but if you are telling military tactics how to conduct, That is wrong. That's what Sun Tzu says. Are you following? Okay, good. Now, let's move on to discuss third scholar, Michael. You know how to spell Michael? Walzer, Walzer. He's my favorite scholar. Yeah, here you go. I tell you who my favorite is in warfare. In warfare, he's my favorite scholar. Michael Walzer wrote a book called Just and Unjust Wars. He's, if I have to say, his ideology leans with liberalism. He doesn't say like, oh, war is a serious business like Clausewitz. It has to be full throttle. You have to kill. That's the business. No, and he's not saying like Clausewitz, don't introduce moderation into warfare. Full. No, actually, Walzer talks about laws in warfare. Laws, like international laws are there. He is about regulating warfare. Even in 19th century, when America fought civil war in this country, okay, civil war between North and South, we wrote, well, a Columbia University professor who's an immigrant wrote a book, okay, and it talks about rules of conduct. For example, you can't go and assassinate somebody of an enemy commander. Only during battlefield, yes, you could kill, fairness. So there are rules. Let's see 3 stages. He puts 3 stages. Oh, by the way, that time it was what was written in the Civil War. Okay, that later grew into more larger rules and become the international Hague Conventions, Geneva Conventions. You heard of Geneva Conventions, where you shouldn't torture, right? Before, you know, Thucydides' Peloponnesian War, when I said the victor could do whatever he wants, he will kill all the fighting age men, sell women and children to slavery. You can't do that now, right? It doesn't matter how much victory you get. You can't kill civilians. All this evolved into proper conduct of war. The proper conduct is divided into 3 stages. First one, us ad bellum. You're like, whoa, what is that? That's Latin. I'll explain us ad bellum, because in those days English is not the lingua franca of the world. Latin is us. That's like a J, like a bend. Us ad bellum. Justice, us means justice, ad bellum means war. Justice at war. So there are 4 stages. I'm going to talk about it. Okay, three different steps, 3 different stages. But in this 4 points I have. Justice at war. This is, now let me give you a title of all the 3 stages and then I will explain. The next one, us in bello. Okay, this is justice in war. Once you go to war, this is before going to war, whether it is just to go to war. This is justice in war. Once you are in war, you have to conduct just right way. Then once war is over, who's post bellum? Post bellum, the same spelling. Post bellum. Post. Okay. Now let's discuss these 3 stages. Who's ad bellum? Before going to war, soldiers are not the ones in charge. Say in the United States, the politicians in DC, president, the Congress are in charge. Who decides to go to war in the United States? Congress. If you said the president, it's technically not correct, but even though the presidents have taken the country to war, Constitution gives the power only to the House of Representatives to go to war, declare war. Okay? Now, who's ad bellum? Okay, when do you think it is right to go to war? It's about ethics. Clausewitz, there's nothing about ethics. Realists don't think about ethics. Raison d'etat, what is right for the state is the correct thing. But here, they have a reason, ethical way to conduct war. When is it right to go to war? It's right. First is self-defense. If I am coming to attack you, then you have the right to defend. So if some country attacks you, your country has the right to defend morally. Okay? And so justice at war. You might ask, why is that in Latin? Well, I told you before means 800 years ago, Thomas Aquinas, Hugo Grotius, which is a father of international law, all these guys, the liberalism scholar, all these guys, when they came, started writing about justice at war, they wrote in Latin. Okay. And self-defense is a valid reason, because to prevent, you have the right to protect your life and your people's life, so you could fight back an enemy. Second reason, justice at war. Preemption, Preemption. Preemption is different from prevention. So you and I are standing, I'm about to punch you, and you know the punch is going to land on your face, and you deflect and punch me. That is right. Preventative war is like I'm working out, I'm getting stronger, and you look at me like, oh, he's getting stronger, maybe he'll come and punch me. And that's very schizophrenic. Then you want to punch me, and then you decide to come and punch me. That is preventative war. You decided to do a preventative war. Preemption is I am about to punch you, and you hit me. Preemption is morally right. Prevention is not. A good example Walzer gives is the state of Israel fighting the Six-Day War. 1960 Six-Day War. They fought against all the Arab countries. Most of the Arab countries were gathering the war machine and coming to crush Israel. The longer they wait, Israel is going to be attacked, crushed. So Israel took off flights, jets, and started going and bombing to protect. Okay? Not preventative. Preemptive war is acceptable. Third one, all under us ad bellum. Proportionality. If you go out, you're sitting in a bar, chatting, some bartender comes and says something mean. Would you take a gun and shoot him? Or if you say, I don't want to be part of your life, you won't stand in court as self-defense either, right? If he tries to kill you and you defend yourself killing him, that's self-defense. If he says something mean and you take a knife and stab him or shoot him, that's not self-defense. That's a disproportionate response. So same in war. If they shoot down, say your enemy shoot down one of your fighter pilot from the sky, you don't go and carpet bomb the country. Massive bombing campaign. You do something proportionate. So proportionality is the third word, is important in warfare, according to Walzer. The fourth one is last resort. What does that mean? Warfare should be the last resort. You should use all the other tools in your arsenal to achieve your political goal. Only if none of them works, then you use war. Like Clausewitz, war as a continuation of politics by other means. Use warfare to achieve your military goal. Through that, you achieve your political goal. Are you with me? Good. Now we're going to talk about us in bello, your justice in war, second stage. You started the war. Either one of the four reasons or any of them combined. You start a war, and then you are in war. What should be done? There are entire books written on us in bello. I'm going to discuss two important points from Walzer's. Us in bello, the most important, the heart of justice in war is, write it down, civilian immunity. Underline, civilian immunity. Civilian immunity is vital. Why is it vital? Well, you don't just go and kill civilians of another country. You have the right to kill the soldiers of the country. If you're a soldier, you take an oath to fight and defend your country, and your enemy also has the right to kill you. You are in the same moral plane. You both could fight as a warrior ethic to kill and be killed. But the civilian freaking didn't sign up for this. It's like me giving an exam to a student who didn't even sign up for the class. Much more harsher, you're going and killing a civilian. Are you following? They didn't sign up for the war. You can't kill a civilian. In those days, Thucydides, we talked about Melian dialogue, they killed civilians too. All fighting age men, women and children, to slavery, selling them. You cannot do that. Civilian immunity, civilians should not be killed. Of course, You might say like, oh, isn't that warfare? Civilians, in America when they fight in foreign countries, civilians, unintentionally it should be, not intentionally. Yeah, during World War II, Hitler bombed places thinking like civilians could be killed through that. Their government will come to peace tables. That's immoral now, unethical. Even then it was. Okay? In fact, I'll talk about Nuremberg trials soon. I know. Are you following? Okay, civilian immunity. The next one, write it down, POW, prisoner of war. So somebody, if I and you are fighting soldiers, I surrender, you don't kill me. I drop my weapon, and then I'm hurt, I should be given medicine, quarter food, a place to stay, and you could lock me up as prisoner of war. But you shouldn't shoot me. That is violating Geneva Conventions and international law. All these Geneva Conventions, Hague Conventions are international law, conduct of warfare. Are you following? Jus in bello. It's not morally right, and it's not also legally right now. But it all evolved, the legal laws are codified from these ethical arguments. Jus post bellum. Two things you need to know. First is punishment, second one is reconstruction. What is punishment? We fought World War II, United States. Germany and Japan were defeated. First time an international tribunal was set up. Tribunal. US, England, France, Russia. All the four victors joined together, put the Nazis, the higher officials. Himmler, the big guy, was the right-hand man of Hitler. Hitler shot and killed himself. Other guys who were arrested, put on trial, in Nuremberg trials, and charged with the crimes they did. Similarly, the Japanese military top men were put on Tokyo trials. Nuremberg is also a place in Germany. Nuremberg trials happened. Tokyo trials. And judges were brought not just by the victors' country, even neutral countries like India, judges were brought. And law was applied. Some of the Nazis who were stood in the trial, a couple of them were sent, exonerated, got out. Some got jail sentence. Some got death penalty. Are you following? So punishment should be fair, not like a kangaroo court. Kangaroo court is like an eyewash, like a court set up, but then everybody will be, who stand the trial will be killed. That's not fair. Okay, and now we have international criminal courts to punish, which we will later discuss in the semester when you talk about human rights. But now you need to understand that in warfare, anyone who did unethical conduct, say killed civilians, or did disproportionately things, anything, any other violations, they could be charged and justice should be prevailed. The next one, Reconstruction. The two countries fight. You defeat my country. You occupy my country. You cannot just plunder my country. Like in old times, 1,000 years ago, you could just plunder all the wealth of my country. You cannot do that. You cannot take away my precious gems or art and architecture. No, you cannot. What you could do is build my country back. If you bombed me freaking to Stone Age, your job is to do reconstruction. If you look at 19th century, the northern North defeated the South in Civil War, American Civil War, right? Right after Lincoln died, Reconstruction started and tried to build the South. Similarly, when World War II, we defeated Japan and Germany, we started building them back. In fact, in Japan, we not only economically built, but politically also. We wrote Japan a constitution. Douglas MacArthur, the American five-star general, was the man in charge there. We kept the Japanese emperor as just a puppet, and he executed so many things, including gave women the right to vote. So that is Reconstruction. building back a country. Are you following? Okay, good. All right. Now let's talk about, so these stages are over, Walzer is over. Let's talk about now a fourth scholar, John Keegan. You know how to spell John. Keegan is Keegan. Gan. John Keegan is a British historian. He wrote a book called A History of Warfare. A History of Warfare. John said war as a culture, war, quote unquote, war as a culture. He didn't say war is a continuation of politics by other means. So he was going against Clausewitz's idea. How does he show that war is a culture? He looked at different cultures around the world, the history of warfare, and showed how warfare was not fought by these people as a continuation of politics by other means. It's for cultural reasons. Example, first one, write it down, samurai. You know samurai, the sword, samurai sword? Japanese, Samurai, samurais. In samurai culture, the samurai swordsmen, they are soldiers, they're trained since little age, they are martial glory, fighting discipline, all these things. It's like martial arts. And then firearms came into their society. Okay? When firearms came, any guy walking on the street without proper martial training could shoot a samurai and defeat him. So firearms were banned for a long time to keep the hierarchy of the samurai culture. And even in warfare between the different tribes of Japan, when they fought, they tried to regulate and reduce cannon usage and gunpowder usage, because then it affects the samurai culture. So they preserved the culture, protected the culture, rather than taking an advantage of a technology. They didn't completely change until 19th century. The United States, Commodore Perry went there and bombarded them with his big ship and cannons to open their ports for trade with America. And then they're like, okay, we got to catch up like the West. They started even eating meat and other things. I don't want to go into that history. Are you following now? Okay. So that's one, samurai. John Keegan also brings second one, Mamelukes, Mamelukes. Mamelukes are warriors in 19th century and even before that in Egypt. These are, if a family has a child, the government will take the child away from the parents. He has to give up the parents. He's raised as a soldier, given all the training. He will have the honor of being a Mameluke. He will live his life to protect the power of the state. He will go to warfare. He will have honor and all the glory. However, he could even marry and have children, but the child won't get the glory. The child, if you want, he has to sign up and be a soldier himself. So these Mamelukes trained with swords, just like the samurais. And when they faced an army like Napoleon with firearms, Napoleon Bonaparte, they kept coming to fight with Napoleon in horseback, and they were shot down with firearms. They knew firearms existed. They could have trained with firearms, but they didn't. They kept their culture, which resulted in lots of deaths and their defeat. Okay? Now, let's discuss a third different culture from the world, from John Keegan's book. Yanomamo, Yanamamo. Yanomamo is a tribal people living in Amazon jungle. More than 50% of the men die in the tribe fighting. Fighting with what? With other Yanomamo tribe. Fight for what? They're not fighting for the war is a continuation of politics by other means. They're fighting because one man will go and take a woman, kidnap a woman from another tribe, and that tribe men will come as a gang and fight a war with this tribe, and they just deaths happen. Yes, many times the woman, when they're going to do collect something, they take their children with them. You know why? Because if they get kidnapped, at least they'll have their children with them. Then they will be kidnapped and be married to the tribe which kidnapped them. Anyway, at a moment when war as a culture, say you and I are there, we show the prowess by me standing firm. They come running and punch you in the stomach. Then I get to do the same. So whoever falls first will be. And slapping kind of match like things happen, and then it could break out into a serious warfare. It's culture, according to Keegan. Of course, Keegan is speaking on this cultural aspects and explaining, whereas Clausewitz is looking at states, modern state kind of, because modern state, the idea is 1648 in the West, after the Treaty of Westphalia, 1648, 30-year war, they created this idea. So Clausewitz is, from this perspective, sees the war as a continuation of politics by other means. Clausewitz right for state when you have a state. Keegan is right when he is looking into cultural aspects of it. Both are right. Okay, so now it might remind you of constructivism, Keegan's idea, right? War as a culture. And Walzer will remind you of liberalism, and Clausewitz will remind you of realism. Keep thinking and look at warfare in different ways. Good luck fighting.